Everybody can write. Hello and welcome. Today's topic is how to refer to your characters in writing. This topic was largely inspired by fanfiction, and don't get me wrong, I love fanfiction. I think it's a great space for people to express themselves. But, not really even a but, it's just more of an and. There's going to be more amateur writing there, less edited writing there, which does more easily showcase those sort of early, maybe not so great writing habits. And one of the things that often sticks out to me is people referring to characters by their hair colour consistently. Just, it doesn't matter what the situation is, they are gonna refer to those characters by their hair colour. And I get it. In a lot of visual media, characters are sort of colour-coded for ease of recognition, but most of the time it doesn't entirely make sense to be referring to a character by their hair colour. Here's what I'm talking about. The raven gazed soulfully into the blonde's azure blue eyes. Raven, as in raven-haired. Nothing inherently bad about this sentence, but for me the descriptors can end up distracting from the actual story. There are two pretty important things that I think about when I refer to characters. Have I been too afraid to use names and pronouns? And do the descriptors I use when referring to characters make sense? Are they relevant to the situation? Names and pronouns are usually fairly neutral when it comes to the reader, so they're not very likely to notice the sort of inevitable repetition that they cause. But it is nice to, on occasion, use something else, especially as emphasis. Now let me give you an example on how, well, actually hair colour could be relevant to the scene. The mugger has been targeting blondes, Matt said. Most people in the room cast nervous glances at Shay. The blonde just raised their eyebrows in a clear challenge. They knew they could take care of themselves. Not perhaps the most subtle example, but I hope it illustrates what I mean by having the description be relevant to the scene. In this particular example, it is very central that Shay is blonde, because that is a reason why their friends are afraid that they might get targeted for a mugging. Which, very cheery example. Let's go to another one. Now here's a character. He's tall, kind, pompous, grey-haired, stuffy, round, well-spoken, a man, and a headmaster. Also, he has a magnificent moustache. The character is talking to a teacher about the approaching winter holiday in an overly excited way. Choose one or two descriptors from the list above and form a sentence that relates to this situation. I'll give you 5 or so seconds, but feel free to pause the video. I'd love to see your sentences in the comments down below. This task was almost a bit of a trick question, as any of these descriptors could be used in this situation. Here are 2 examples from me. In the first one, I used the descriptors well-spoken and man. The normally well-spoken man had thrown all decorum to the wind in his excitement. Here I've chosen the descriptor well-spoken to emphasize how unusual the situation is. A second example. In this example, I've named the teacher Steve and used the descriptors tall and headmaster. Steve felt like the mountainously tall headmaster with elaborate holiday plans was the final boss he needed to face before he'd be allowed to finally go home. While this example is still in third person, it is more from Steve's point of view. And from where Steve is looking, the headmaster looks like a tall, big obstacle in his way. I've also chosen to use headmaster to emphasize that, well, he's basically Steve's boss, so Steve can't just blow him off. I'll now give you an exercise to practice using descriptors at home. Either take one of your pre-existing characters or create a new one. List their attributes, as I did before with the headmaster. Come up with at least 3 different scenarios you could see them in. Consider how it would be best to refer to them in each scene. Do write these sentences out. So, I've been talking a fair bit about using all sorts of different descriptors for your characters, but I will remind you that it's important to not be too afraid to use just names and pronouns, as they are the more neutral option, and it's good to not bombard the reader with too much detail. I will also remind you that these are not some sort of hard and fast rules that I've been talking about here. They're just something that you can take into account with your writing and see if it's something that suits you. So, well, I think we're done for the day. I'd like it if you would leave a comment, like, subscribe, feed the algorithm. And I will see you next month. Bye!